a bit about your background. Interesting.
I'm the youngest of four girls. My dad is a reverend, is a Baptist reverend, so I grew up in the church. My mom, she's a home ex-woman, caterer, home cooking, all that stuff. My mother can feed the world. I grew up with my sisters. I grew up in the States, came back to Nigeria a few years ago, but I think I had a good childhood. I had a family that I know they loved me, they challenged me, they pushed me. Right now, they're still my greatest supports, my greatest cheerleaders and everything. So it was good. I played sports. I played volleyball when I was younger in high school. What else did I do? I like to cook. I like to read. I actually like spending time alone. I'm very strange in that people think it's a strange thing, but I don't have a problem with spending a few hours by myself. What else? I was in debates group when I was younger. I started in high school as a student government representative. So in parts, with what I do now, I've always had some kind of political background. I did Model UN, I did mock law. I wanted to be a lawyer. But coming back to Nigeria, things change. Uni lawyering, even till now, they've never finished assessing my transcript. So I ended up in Bowen. Bowen didn't have law. I told my dad, either you give me in school or I find a plane and I head back to the US. I got to Bowen. Bowen told me I was going to read English literature. I was like, oh, I don't care. Let me do something. Then I got my admission paper and it said human communication. I was like, what is human communication? Bowen at that time was one of the few universities in the world that was using human communication. But by the time we graduated with NUC and everything, it was mass comm. So that's how I got into mass comm. I think a week or 2 weeks into everything, I realized that it wasn't a mistake. It was one of those things, one of those diversions on your path to whatever that was actually a diversion to the right path. So definitely don't regret it. I did a lot in school. What else did I do? I graduated, best graduating student in my department, second best graduating student in my faculty. And that's the beginning, and I've been working since I was 15. I haven't looked back.
So, let's say you're naked.
Something like that. Something like that. I try my best.
Okay. And how's the transition been on the journey and your highs and your lows from the transition from being a lawyer to a radio presenter?
I think all of it is, I like to talk. When I was younger, I used to hijack my family. I'd make, like, my dad play the judge. I'd line up my animals and they would be the jury, and I'd probably take one of my sisters and force her for like 5 minutes to be my witness. My parents, they're always very strict on what I could watch, so I'd end up watching Perry Mason with the family, a lot of Matlock. So I got a love for law. Yeah, a love for law when I was younger, and the transition wasn't so hard. I like talking and I liked current affairs. I don't think you can be a lawyer if not someone who does it. And I also like reading. So the transition wasn't hard at all. It was just a change in mind frame, because the subject matter sometimes with law is a little bit more narrow than what I do now. So now I have a lot more general knowledge, I think, than I would have if I was just a lawyer who maybe was specializing, whether it's business or copyright or things like that. But it wasn't so much difference. Reading, loving what I do, being passionate about it, all of it came out at the end, and it's working for me.
Okay. Earlier you mentioned your dad is a retired reverend, right?
He's not retired. He's still active.
Okay. That would relate to the next question I'll ask you. Some listeners to your show might wonder why you have such a very high ethical and probably moral standard on several pertinent issues, like governance and politics. Why so?
My parents, for one. When I was growing up, my father, one thing he used to tell me was, number one, always remember the child of who you are. And I'm not going to come anywhere and beg for you, so just don't get into trouble. So I always had that in the back of my mind, that there are expectations from my family as to the type of person I was meant to be. And growing up, it might sound funny, but when I was growing up, my father took me aside when I was younger, and he said that, have you noticed that whoever you end up, you always end up in a front position or as a leader. That means a responsibility is always going to be part of you. Even if you try to hide it, one way or the other will always come out. So I grew up with that expectation. Then I also think because I didn't grow up here, no country is perfect, no democracy is perfect, but I've seen how a democracy can be much better than what we have here. And the comparisons, even years later, still continue to ring in my head. And I just think we have to get to a point where we hold ourselves morally and ethically responsible for certain things. Everything is not government. Until the average Nigerian can stand up and say, I did not facilitate, I did not give this guy 50 naira to park where I'm not supposed to park. I did not, with the current scarcity now, I did not have to give a gas station attendant 1,000 naira to enter a gas station to buy fuel, which is my right. It's just going to have to be part of us. We all stumble. I'm not perfect. We all stumble, we all fall, we all fail. But I think it's consistency. When you make that mistake, suck it up, stand up, and continue. And I strongly believe that when you make certain comments or certain things, and you say certain things about certain situations and people, it's not a reflection of the people or the comment or the situation. It's a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of the type of person you think you are. It's a reflection of the type of person you present. Your words are one thing, your actions another thing, your thoughts are another thing also.
Quite deep. You're passionate about human rights and especially equality for women. Does this passion emanate from your legal background, or as you rightly said, maybe your upbringing?
I think part of it is my upbringing. My father has 4 girls. He doesn't have any boys. When we were growing up in the States, my grandfather told him, send Tolu to us. I'm the youngest. Send Tolu to us, give us one child, something, so they feel like he can come. And my father told him that, don't worry about it. Yes, I know you miss them. They'll be back. Don't worry and everything. But my father told my grandfather, I'm building 4 houses for the future. My grandfather was happy. My grandfather took it literally, not knowing my father was speaking figuratively. My father has told us that he's told me and my sisters, you're not men, but doesn't mean that you can't think like a man, doesn't mean that you can't be in a position to command respect or to do things that a man would do faced with certain things. So he's raised us as much as he can to be independent women, to be women who can do things without assistance. So I see that, and I'm blessed with that. But then I also see the counterpart that there are millions of women out there who don't have that, whether it's from family or society. Society tells a woman you can only go so far and no further, that this is meant for you or this is meant for a man. If you cross this line, you are crossing line into unknown territory. And when you look back at history, there's a quote I love. It says, well-behaved women rarely make history. The women who have changed the world are the ones who did not fall in line with what society has said. They're the ones who did not continue to be the replicas or the duplication of what society says a good and proper woman is meant to be. Those are the ones who change history and make history. And I think that women will have to find their voices and break out. In Nigeria, it's hard. Society, tradition, religion, all of that add to the problem, but it's changing. I see young women doing incredible things now, and I just think they need support and they need mentoring. Women need to mentor each other. I had my sisters, my mom, I had great examples of great women growing up. Not everybody has that. So that's what I'm working on.
Like rightly said, don't you think the challenge we have, I want to say Africa, don't you think the challenge women have in Nigeria is that a lot of successful women don't want to mentor other women?
I think that's a big problem, and I don't know why that's so. I don't know if it's an issue where they feel that they're sharing their secrets. I don't know if it's an issue where they feel that maybe they're opening up their lives, or it's just an issue where we don't trust people. We believe that everyone around us has an ulterior motive, wants something from us, doesn't have a good at heart. And so it's a very tricky situation. I've had young women reach out to me sometimes when I host events or something. I give my number, I tell them to call me at any time. Whatever I can do, I will do. What I cannot do, I'll tell you I can't do it. But when I realize that there are different versions of Nigerian women, and I think we should stop with the 1 or 2 versions of Nigerian women that we play out. We play the entertainment, whether you're a celebrity or a personality or this, and then we play the one in politics who is either sleeping or slept with someone to get to where who slept with someone to get to where she is, or who has a godfather in order to be where she is, and nothing is ever on merit, nothing is ever on the entitlements, education, nothing is ever on her hard work. And young girls don't need to continue to hear that because you make them lazy. They'll say, I'm never going to have it anyway if there's not some man who's patting my head and telling me, well done. I don't subscribe to that.
Quite. As a well-versed online presenter and personality, how would you describe the social and political awareness of an average Nigerian? Be honest.
It's hard. We have a long way to go. We have a very long way to go. And I think that in terms of educating the Nigerian populace, we are not as close to having an educated populace as we'd like. People have degrees, but when it comes to being democratically and civically minded and being able to see behind all the lines of the politics that people pull and the strings that they pull, people still continue to fall for the scheming and the puppeteering of our political leaders. They still continue to do that, and we continue to divide ourselves on religion, region, ethnicity, tribe. We are doing that. They're not doing that for us. So even if they're telling us lies, we're choosing to believe their lies. It's going to take a while, but I think my generation, a generation before mine and the coming ones are changing that. There's more of us not taking things at face value and understanding the fact that there's a lot more behind the scenes than what they think we should see. So we take too much at face value. We react sentimentally as Nigerians. We don't look deeply at it, and we allow one single incendiary comment to make the rest of the life. You take that comment, and then you don't follow the trail of what comes behind it. You take that one comment, focus on it, and then you forget the fact that other things are happening. And then I think we're forgetful politically. We don't remember the people who stole our money. We don't remember the people whose children tried to launder our money. We don't remember the people who didn't build bridges and who didn't finish the roads. We're very forgetful as a political.
So what's your take on the consciousness of this generation and the quality of education in Nigeria?
I think the quality of education on many parts is failing. Yes, I went to a private university, but I went to school with people when I was in university, graduates from secondary school coming in and some other people, and I had to do group assignments and group homework and things like that, and I was astounded at some of the things I saw. I wasn't expecting that from people who are entering university who should have a certain level of whether it's English, understanding.
Even in a private university.
Even in a private university. It's when people call and tell us that it's difficult for them to find employable Nigerians, I understand and I see it. You see people bring you a CV, and when you ask them to talk you through their job experiences and the things they learn, they can't do that. It's not simply about you having a job and being in and doing the requirements and just following your key development areas and whatnot. What have you put into the job? What have you taken out of it? And many people just want a job, any job. But it's not just about you getting your salary. At the end of the day, is the extras. You do the job to get your salary, but you do more to get the respect of the people you work with and you work for. And I found that a lot of people are not willing to step up. The internet has opened up so much. There's free classes and free education on the internet, but people are using their phones for so many other things. Tweeting and Blackberry, can you imagine? And BBMing and all of it, but not a single thing is adding value. And I also think that social media is making us lazy. People are using abbreviated social media speak to type letters. I see that and I delete. I don't even bother because that's just someone who's very unserious. When they send messages in, I tell them, stop writing. You have all the space necessary. Stop writing abbreviation. I cannot comprehend what you're writing. And it's making this generation also lazy and disconnected on an interpersonal level. And people really have to realize that work is not just you go in and you sit at your desk or this person sits at their desk in society. You have to have interpersonal communication. You have to understand that people have boundaries. This is how far you can push. You have to learn certain things. And I don't think they're learning that. The educational, I'm afraid for what happens with the generation that is being taught at the very basic level. I don't think there's There might be one or two lecturers in universities who are outstanding, but on the whole, you find that people just go to clock in, to mark the days and the times, and they leave. And when they leave, and when the students pass out, the university has passed through them, but it's like the students have not passed through the university, and they don't carry their education with them.
What's your take on the rapid evolution of ICT vis-a-vis the media industry, nationally and globally?
It's the next wave. It's truly the next wave, because in this world we live in right now, with everybody attached to at least one phone or so that has some kind of higher technological application, it's the next wave. And I don't think going back to education, our universities are not realizing that. We're still graduating doctors and accountants, lawyers. There's nothing wrong. They'll always find some space. But our curriculum has to change to identify the fact that we're going to need people in ICT who can do applications and who can do so much more. It's no longer linear thinking and linear education. Our education has to go to the non-linear side of thinking. We're not stepping it up. We need specialized schools that will do simply ICT. We need more Nigerian young men who are involved, and women who are involved in programming, who can go to MIT, who can go to institutes in India and come back and do this. ICT is the next wave. Anybody who's not ready for it, they're just holding on to the old days, truly. It's the next wave of the future. Or actually, it is the wave, it's here now. It's here.
What do you think, or what's the biggest misconception you have rediscovered people have about you?
That I'm mean. That I'm very harsh. Maybe it's because of this show. Because there's so many people who want to comment, and sometimes people can comment off the cuff with absolutes, unreliable. There's opinions, and then there are things that are past opinions, and you just realize that I just have to be very strict about it. So people think sometimes that I'm too strict. But once it's 10 o'clock and I hand over to Catherine or whoever is coming up next, everything absolutely changes. And so it's a personality thing. I tell people, if you work in this industry, and particularly on like the way Nigerian info works, you have a split personality. There's you that's on air, then there's you that's off air. That's off air.
Who has been the most intriguing personality you have interviewed to date?
I think I'd have to say Asari Dokubo.
Oh, okay.
Because for me, some of his comments, his rationale, his thinking, and for someone who carries so much influence with a certain population and segments of Nigeria, it was scary for me, especially as we're looking at 2015.
Your advice to the young generation who don't want to
Okay, hold on.
Generation who don't want to pay the price needed to attain success.
You can't get away from it. You will sacrifice. You'll lose friends. You'll make friends. You'll learn. I've fallen on my face. I've made errors on TV and radio. You cannot get away from the sacrifices. Nothing comes easy. Don't deceive yourself and think that the world owes you. The world doesn't owe you. I wasn't born with the world owing me. I wasn't born with calculations. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. And this issue of comparison, our journeys are different. Whatever your journey is, yes, you can look every once in a while and say, okay, how is my friend doing? Are we progressing? Are we progressing at the same level and moving forward? But it's your journey. You carry your own baggage. And if you continue to be diverted with other people's journey, you'll never get to where you're going. And I also think that the least you can do, because what I find is that people stand in other people's way. If you don't think you can extend a helping hand to someone, the least you can do is not be an obstacle in their path. So you can't get away from sacrificing. If you can help, the karma comes back to you. The good you do will always come and visit you. But other than that, if you cannot help someone, don't put yourself as an obstacle in their way.
Title of the previous book you read?
I just finished reading When Darkness Falls by Shannon Drake. I finished the book in 2 days. Really? On Thursday, yeah.
Title of the book you are currently reading or you're about to read?
I think I'm about to read 10 Things He Won't Tell You.
That says a lot.
Yeah, that says a lot.
So thanks for sparing some of your time with the interview series.
No problem.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.